Hello, thank you for joining us for the NGH chapter meeting. We're so glad you're here today. We love being part of the National Guild of Hypnotists Washington chapter. It is just only $50 a year to sign up to be a member. And the benefits are being together as a group and a community. Every time we meet in person, usually at a local library, so get ready to drive. We have like an hour presentation of an area expert. So it just is a great educational opportunity, great networking. We can refer clients to each other because of our expertise. And we really appreciate you being here today. My name is Danny Green. I'm the secretary in our meeting today. We have other board members who get street cred for being here. So Faith is our treasurer, and Barbara Decker is our member at large and helping with membership. And then we have Tina Worthy, who is our vice president. I'm secretary. And then Jody Solberg is out of town doing this whole conference thing, I think in Michigan, and she's our president. So I am just honored and thrilled to welcome Anthony Gitch today, and he will take over with the presentation. This presentation will be uploaded to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. I'm going to turn it over to Anthony now. However, this chair will stay empty until he calls one of you to be on a demonstration today. Take it away, Anthony.
Okay, everybody. So I'm going to speak to you all since you're here, rather than focusing here. Hello, everybody there as well. So most of you know me from the conference, and I've spoken with the NGH several years ago. I think about the same thing I'm going to be speaking about today because it's my wheelhouse, right? The control system. And I know some of you have had a little bit of experience with it, but the way that we're going to talk about it today is I'm actually going to have you experience what we do during our consultations. And the reason, let me get a little bit into why I love what it is that I do in hypnosis, particularly with the control system. So I started out as a regression specialist, kind of. I was a five-pather. We all know what five-pathers are. I'm sure we've heard the term if you've been to any of the conferences, right? So it's all about abreactive therapeutic hypnosis, right? That's what five-path stands for. Five, well, it used to stand for that. Now it's five-phase advanced therapeutic hypnosis instead of abreactive therapeutic hypnosis. But it's all based on regression. And one of the things that I learned when I first got into it, started working, was that it was really hard on my clients. It's really difficult on the clients to have to go through an abreact. Granted, we are trained to take them through that, a positive experience, so they can have acceptance of whatever it is that they're dealing with, right? I mean, isn't that the ultimate end goal, is acceptance and moving into the new behavior? Yeah, acceptance of the old stuff, moving into the new. So what I started to find after multiple clients were successful, but in my opinion, beaten down. They were not empowered in the way that I like to empower people. And so I started looking for other ways to try to help folks. And that's when I finally came across, after going to tons of conferences, I came across at the UK Hypnosis Conference, Tim Box, and he's a developer of the control system. And I started following some stuff, and I actually jumped on board and took the class. And the reason that I use it as my primary source of change for folks is because it's so freaking easy. There is no, there is never a chance that the client is going to believe that you did something to them because they are conscious the whole time. Rather than using the state of hypnosis that we've been trained to use, that somnambulistic state, right, where we drop people, or we use that term, we're going to drop you into hypnosis, you're going to get deeper, all that kind of stuff. We simply don't even talk about that. Instead, we use a term called, well, it's subconscious dominance, right? And subconscious dominance is something that we have all experienced from the time that we're little. Anytime you have been out on a play field, or and you've been running around doing something, all of a sudden you've done this, right? You've protected yourself. Your subconscious has seen, recognized some sort of a threat to you, and it's run its primary program, which is to keep your ass safe. Hands come up. Didn't have to think about it. Oh my God, here it comes. Throw my hands up. right? When the speeding bus is coming, you don't look at the bus and go, left, right. You look at the bus and you're out of the way, right? It's just done. Well, that is a reflex in a lot of ways, right? But it is the epitome of subconscious dominance. The subconscious has taken over the function of your bodies and is moving you around to do things. So we use that state deliberately, and we create that state deliberately. And we do that by creating or by playing what we call imagination games, right? And we only do that in our consultation. And we're going to explain some of this because you guys are going to go through the consultation today to kind of figure out how we do and why we do what we do. Because it's very, we don't use scripts, right? We do use a cheat sheet, right? That kind of, it's a flow sheet. We do use a flow sheet because we do sometimes run into a challenge where maybe we'll get a negative response for something that we're asking, and we need to be able to work through that. So we provide that. But what we're doing in control is we're empowering our clients because they're recognizing that they're actually speaking to a part of themselves, right? And that's the way that we introduce this. This is all a big game for them, essentially. When we're doing it, it can feel that way. It's generally people don't generally leave a control system session feeling sad or feeling anything but positive and empowered. And it's because of the way that we do the work, right? I mean, during the initial consultation, we're going to play these imagination games, which we'll do in a few moments. And that helps us to determine how we're best going to be able to communicate with that person's subconscious mind. Are they kinesthetic? Are they visual? What is their main program for communication, right? For their subconscious communication. Once we establish that, we will generally then, we end it with creating IMRs. We all know what IMRs are. Yeah, ideomotor response, right? We've all worked with ideomotor response probably. This is our primary function of control is ideomotor work, right? Because what we're doing is, I'm going to explain it the way I would to a customer or the way I would to a client in our first session. Think of your mind like a ship. Ship's got a captain and a crew. The captain is your logical, conscious part of your mind. The captain knows where we're going, why we're going there, and even has a pretty good idea of how we're going to get there. Unfortunately, the part of your mind that has its hands on everything that steers and sails this ship is the crew. The crew is your subconscious mind. And when the crew is listening to the captain, smooth sailing, no problem. However, when the crew isn't listening to the captain, then we may not be getting anywhere at all, or we may find ourselves going in circles, right? That's where these negative behaviors come up, right? Now, the reason that we may find some of our crew doing the wrong job or the job that we don't want them doing is because they decided what job they had before there was a captain on board. Before we understood our place in the world, before we understood autonomy, all that kind of stuff, when we were young, the mind and the subconscious came up with, or the crew came up with certain strategies to help you do one thing and one thing only survive and keep the ship afloat. Yeah. Once we became adults, we started to understand our place, we started to understand choices, that sort of thing. Now, we may find that some of the old ways that we were handling things, those old strategies, they no longer apply, right? Think about the smoker who's got a cigarette in their hand and they're going, why is this damn thing in my hand? I don't want it there. It's there because that crew member says, this is my damn job. I'm really good at this job. I had this job forever. Whenever I get stressed, whenever this happens, my job is to do this, and I'm really good at it. We don't want to get rid of that. Never do we want to ever get rid of part of ourselves. Instead, is what we want to do is why not have that crew member, and I'm kind of jumping around here a bit, why not have that crew member take on a new position, give it an upgrade, empower it to do something better for the whole, right? Reintroduce it because right now it's being shoved out because we hate that part of ourselves. I can't stand it. I just want to get rid of it, they say. No, we want to love it, thank it for the job that it's done because there was a purpose it was being done. We just need to change the purpose. The crew is never out to sink the ship. The crew is always looking for the best strategy for the most happiness, right? And so when we look at it that way, now our clients can understand I'm not a bad person. I'm not doing this out of sabotage. I'm doing this because of a program I'm running. Great. Now, how do I get in touch with that particular part of myself and ask it to do something different? And this is the beautiful thing. We have 3 sessions in the control system, but we have those not because they need the third session. It's because I believe, and Tim believes, that we need to provide support for the parts that are changing. Because here's the deal. During our first session, we make all of the changes that need to be made, and we're not done with that first session until that's done. And so the first session, as long as I've been doing this now, I usually get the first session done in an hour or less. When I first started, there have been some challenging times where the first session took me an hour and a half to get it to where we knew by the way that we test that the situation or the issue has been resolved and that they're going to be able to go live their lives and do what they want to do for that next week, right? And I want them go out there, test yourself, get in every stressful situation you possibly can, everything like you normally would, and see what's happening. See what's happening internally with the behaviors, with what you're thinking about the behaviors, and then come back. And the very first thing I'm going to do is here's our very scientific method. I start right here and I'm like, this is 0. I didn't get any of the changes I wanted. This is 10. I got all of the changes I wanted. You're going to tell me where to stop this, or you're going to give me an exact number. It's not, well, I felt a little bit better. No, on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you? Right? I want to know exactly, because the next question out of my mouth, if they say, well, it was a 7, all right, what would have made it a 10? I don't care about anything else, right? I want to know what little piece, what remainder do we have to work with that the crew needs to be able to understand and implement to make those changes apply to the same sort of stressor or the same sort of thing, whatever it is that created the only made it a 7, right? So now we need to work with that. We may have to work with another part, right, that didn't express itself in the first session. So then we go through and we work with that part, and we take that where it is. Those second sessions usually last no more. My second sessions generally don't last more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And my clients go away because I tell them, you're welcome to hang out here with me in the office and we can chat. I'm not that interesting, I tell them, and they're usually really ready to get on with their day, right? The cost has never been, the amount of time I spend with my clients has never been inclusive of the amount of money that I charge. Not in any of the discussions that I have with them, because I'm not charging for time. I'm not charging for results. I'm charging for my expertise, right? And that is why I can say that that first session may last an hour, it may last an hour and a half, may last 2 hours. That second session may last 15 minutes, but it may last an hour. The third session, if they even show up, because a lot of times they're like, I really don't need it. Do I have to come? I'm like, no, you don't have to come. No one's going to force you. If you've got what you wanted, give me a call if you ever need anything, but whatever, talk to you later. Um, and so I spend maybe 3 hours in total with clients. And it's amazing because the biggest challenge they have, like with a lot of us when we got into this field, is the ease at which change can take place. When we have educated our clients to a degree that they understand that it is as easy as snapping your fingers, right? Because really, what it comes down to, and the way I like this is about acceptance. It's just again about acceptance, right? The mind working different pathways towards acceptance in a more easily acceptable way, I believe. And we have a little saying in control, and it's KISS, KISS. And what does everybody say that means? Keep it simple, stupid is what
It's
most
simple,
people say,
stupid.
right? In control, keep it super simple, right? Because everything is as easy as we allow it to be, right? We can start to delve into some of the challenges that we have with clients and, well, why did they respond this way? What am I going to do now? When we keep it as simple as possible, it's like, what is that? The Occam's razor, whatever it is, the most, whatever answer you think it is at first is usually the one that it is, sort of thing. And it's that way when we work with people with their behavior patterns. If we follow our intuition and we trust ourselves and we have sufficient training, we should be able to pull that with those resources. That's why we're kind of in this, I would think, to help people. We have those intuitive resources available to us. Trust them. use them. Let them guide you, let them drive you, right? That's why I like the control system as well, is because I have a parameter, right? I have a boundary kind of to work within, but within that boundary, I've got a lot of playroom, right? And so it makes it a lot of fun. It makes it fun for me. My clients are always laughing. I love to have fun with my clients. Um, the only time now I have crying clients is when they're crying because they're happy, um, or because we have really gotten into something intense and it's just a required release, right? That they need to have it. And I'm totally supportive of that. But now let me ask you all a question. We're gonna start out with kind of consultation and how I like to start with my clients. And I've got this. Does everybody know what this is? What is it? It's a pipe for smoking. Would everybody agree with that? Well, you're all wrong. And this is the first indication of what my clients, when I look at them and I'm like, okay, well, there's your first challenge. This is not a pipe. This is a representation of a pipe. You cannot pick it up. You cannot smoke it. You cannot do anything with it, but look at it. Everything that enters our mind is a representation based upon our map of reality. Has nothing to do with the real, right? Um, and when people are, oh, that is how Keep It Super Simple works, right? Because now with just that little bit of information, people are already going, I've always looked at that as, right, that is the challenge. And that's why we get stuck in loop thinking. This is why we get stuck in these behaviors that it's like, well, this is what this does. No, we believe that this is what it does. When we look at it and we observe it and stand back, now we can say, oh, this is what I'm doing, not what they're doing to me. But this is how I'm choosing to respond to this stimulus because nothing outside of here, you, has any control over you until you give it control over you. Nothing is sad, nothing is happy, nothing is anything until you judge it as such. It is simply an experience, right? And when we can step away from ourselves and step away from that being so ingrained in the ownership of mind, right? Now when we can start to see that and we can help our clients understand that there's a bigger thing, they start to feel empowered. They start to feel like, oh, I've got choices out here, right? And I talk a lot about the process of thinking, right? How many of you know what metacognition is? Right? Very good. I read a lot of books about metacognition. Metacognition is the breaking down of it's thinking about thinking. It's thinking about why people think the way they think and helping them to understand that you started at A, you wanted to go to B, you ended up down here, back over here, and then over here, right? And helping them break that down to see how that happens based upon the biases that we have, all those internal things that we just think makes us up who we are, right? And all that stuff can be changed. So it's important, I believe, for the way that I work, that I like to encompass all of this stuff. And I like to really educate my clients or the folks that I work with about the power that they hold in creating the existence that they want to create. Um, so who wants to go ahead and experience? Well, you'll be a subject in a moment, but I want everybody to experience this first. So we're going to go through real quickly the consultation as if you're all clients. So we're going to go through the part of the consultation where we play our imagination games, right? Because this is the fun part. We've collected some information from the client, that sort of thing. And now I want to find out exactly how their subconscious mind communicates. So if everybody would just relax for a moment, put your pens down. And I apologize, I forgot my water. Everybody sit and relax. And I'd like you to close your eyes. Now, I'd like you to imagine yourself in a perfectly round room. Now, in a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers, and what I do, there's going to be a chair. As soon as that chair is there, nod your head. Great. Now, in a moment, I want you to approach the chair, and I'd like you to sit in the chair. As soon as you're sitting in the chair and you have a really good idea of how the experiences of sitting in that chair is, nod your head. Great. Now, as you're sitting in that chair, hopefully enjoying it, a song starts to play. You know it instantly. As soon as you know and recognize what that song is, nod your head. Great. Now, everybody open your eyes. So let's just kind of have how long, how quickly did it take for a chair to appear? Did one just show up or did you have to choose one? You chose one. Okay. It just showed up? Great. So most of you had just showed up. Yeah. Okay. So that nothing at all for you. A fuzzy picture, but did you have to create it rather than it just kind of fuzzily being there? Okay. Okay. All right. Right on. Okay. And so now, how many of you could feel the chair? Danny could feel the chair? Right on. All right. How about you? You struggled. Okay. So you couldn't feel it immediately. All right. Now, how many of you had a song and it started playing instantly? What was your song? Right on. Oh, right on. So Tim and I have a joke that so there's no wrong answers when we're doing the imagination games, right? Except for that. Tim and I have unilaterally, well, that's not unilaterally, it's not much. We have bilaterally decided that there is only one right answer for that particular question, and it is Africa by Toto. We don't know why, but we decided. And so, at any rate, you can see that I play with my clients a lot. I like to have fun with them. I like because I'll tell you what, rapport is what creates change, not what we're doing. We're giving them a chance to allow the change to happen internally. And so I think it's, thank you so much. I think it's really important for us to recognize that the more fuzzy warmness that we can have with our clients with maintaining boundaries, the better results we get because they trust us. We're like that. Oh my God, that guy's he's just as goofy as I am, right? And they like that. They like that. I think it's what endears me to that, right? And that's a term that a lot of my clients use is they are very, the term is, I feel endearment towards you. They all hold me as something kind of family, right? A lot of the women I work with, you're like my son, you're like my brother. And it's because of the way that I work with them, right? And it's that rapport that I build. And it's done through the games that we play and through the conversations we have. So the next part, okay, so we did see games out. All right. Um, we've all done this one 100 times. Magnetic fingers. Okay. So is what I tell my clients is in a moment, I'm going to go ahead and have you bring your hands together like this. I'm going to have you focus really hard. I say, I'm going to demonstrate this for you first, and then I'm going to have you do this. And then as soon as I start, they start doing it. And I always say, no, I told you I'm going to demonstrate it first. Put your hands down. And then they laugh, right? Because they've been scolded in a fun way and they like that. And the reason I talk about this stuff is because it is what helps to create rapport. So I literally tell them, no, put your hands back down. I'm going to do it first. And then I go through it, right? And we all know as hypnotherapists that this is not anything. This is pure physics. This is going to happen unless they are resisting. This is going to happen because when we push our hands together like this, the fingers have to come together. It's kinesthetically impossible unless you're resisting. for those not to happen. It's just the way the body's designed, right? That's why we do this. So then I have them, I'm going to focus really, 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 really hard. And of course, we're quick and they come together. They're amazed. And I'm like, they're like, oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, okay, well, now we're going to up the ante a little bit, I think. I'm going to say, I want you to take those really powerful magnets that were there in the tips of your fingers, and you're going to move them right down here into the center, into the palms of your hands. And when you can visualize those things there and you really got a good picture of it, you're going to let them activate and you're going to start to rub. And I said, once you get that energetic, that feeling in there, and I said, it's going to be creating heat. Can you feel the heat? They're like, yeah, pretend that's magnetism, I say. Now, once you've got that magnetism built up, I want you to put your hand 6 inches apart, I say, a real 6 inches, not a man's 6 inches, I say. And then they come back to this, right? And I'm like, now you can close your eyes or you can leave them open, doesn't really matter. But in a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers, going to activate those magnets, and the hands are going to come together, right? Now, because they've been laughing, because they've been having a good time, usually as soon as I snap, I got some clappers. I love the clappers, right? Because then they're and I usually I'm always like, did you do that on purpose? They're like, no, right? And if they do, I'm like, okay, well, let's do that again. They're like, I think so. I'm like, all right, well, let's try it again then, right? Because of course we're going to have people move at different degrees of speed. Yeah, doesn't tell me anything. All I care about are they moving, right? Because now I've got buy-in from the subconscious, right? They're sitting there. I haven't hypnotized anybody, but all this stuff is going on, and they're like, wow, how are you doing this, right? And so I'm still having fun with them. The next thing we do, and this is where, why don't we have somebody go ahead and come on up? Go ahead and come on up. Because, like I say, we start to build this up. The next one we do, how many of you do a wrist lift in your sessions for testing for so it's what we'll do is so it's what I want you to just go ahead and it's just like that's good. Do I have permission to touch you? Okay, good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick this wrist up here. So it's what I no helping. Okay. I want you to just be nice and relaxed. There you go. So I'm gonna take this and in a moment, good, that's nice and heavy. In a moment, we're gonna take this and that subconscious is just gonna go ahead and it's gonna start and it's gonna pick up the slack and it's just gonna start to hold it right there. And it's just gonna hold it there comfortably as if it's just floating. Good. And you can just leave that floating comfortably there. In a moment, I'm going to touch the back of your hand. And when I do, it's going to start to rise up into the air. It's as if it's been attached to a bunch of helium balloons. Yeah. It's just going to come super, super light right now. And it's just going to start rising up into the air. Could be really, really quickly, could be really, really slowly. But as those fingers become lighter and lighter and lighter, that wrist, that hand, everything just becomes light. And that whole arm just starts to move on up into the air just starts to float up higher and higher and higher. Just allow that to easily begin to move just like that. And in just a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers. And when I do that, arm will just become solid right there where it's at now. And is what I would like you to do at this point is recognize that that arm is simply locked right into that space where it's at. You can feel that it's comfortable right there. And it's what I'd like you to try to do is put that arm on and recognizing you simply cannot put it down. No matter how hard you try. In fact, the harder you try, the harder it becomes. And the more it starts to rise up even higher and higher as you try to push it down harder and harder. That's right, just like that. And in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and your wrist and your arm is just going to relax comfortably down. 1, 2, 3, and just like that. And so, as you can see, I don't do any hypnosis. I don't do any hypnosis. It's the same response that I get from everybody. Not everybody, right? We have some people that do better at some things, right? Some people will come clear up here, and some people. There are some people that when I get to this point, their arm drops. I make no deal about it. I put chill check mark, and I move right on. That part of the game they didn't do, right? And so now that was perfect. How did that feel for you?
Um, I tried to make sure that my arm was as slack as possible. I definitely think that as you were moving it in a circular position, I think that formed the muscle to want to hold it there. So I think there was something somatic about that.
Well, I am a somatic body worker, so I bring a lot of that into the stuff that I do anyway. So that's one of the things. The next thing that I would do is, so that gives me more information. This is something we all, how many of you use the eye lock? In trance or out of trance? Show of hands. I mean, you use it, the eye lock. So we're going to do it right now. So go ahead and relax, close your eyes for me. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to relax those eyelids so much that they simply will not work. Once you've done that, I want you to hold on to that relaxation. Good. And then just give them a real good test, just to make sure that they're so comfortable that they just don't. That's right. Very good. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to allow that relaxation that you're feeling there behind your closed eyes to simply just move into your mind. Move up maybe to the top of your head, to the crown of your head. And you can feel that warmth or that sensation as that wonderful hypnosis begins to move down the back of your head, right into your neck and into your jaw. And that jaw can drop down comfortably, relaxed. As the tongue rests just behind the front two teeth. And in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And you're going to recognize that that jaw is simply so relaxed that it just won't work. This doesn't want it. So 1, jaws comfortably relaxed, locked into a nice, comfortable position. 2, the tongue relaxed behind the front teeth and the roof of the mouth and easily locked down, completely comfortable. Try to speak and recognize you simply cannot speak. Try to speak and recognize you simply cannot. That's right. Good. Stop trying and just allow that relaxation to settle in a little bit more. As 1, that energy begins to build back up within, and 2, that jaw becomes loose, comfortable, and begins to work just right now. Again, as 1, everything returns to normal, eyes open, wide awake. Good. How was that?
That's good. That's
Good.
interesting.
And so as you can see, again, I use no trance. Why? Why have them believe that I'm doing something to them, right? So this, then I go on to, we continue to build this up. What did you think about that?
Hearing the commands, the muscles really do just want to cooperate. They're curious and want to see where this is going. And yeah.
So very good. Did you feel unempowered?
No, I felt like if I really, really wanted to break out, I could, but there was, I guess we call it subconscious. I could feel something in my muscles saying, no, this is okay. We're fine here. Let's just do this.
And that's what I like to explain to my clients as well, to the folks I'm working with, because oftentimes they have a curiosity, a misunderstanding, but what am I supposed to be feeling when I'm feeling hypnosis? When I'm feeling this stuff? Well, I don't know. How is it for everybody, right? Everybody's going to have a bit of a different experience with that. So it's important to validate what their experience is. Yeah, because again, this is about empowerment, right? I'm always about empowering my clients. So the next one is, I want you to look into my hand. In a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers and there will be a colored ball there. What color's the ball? Great. So in a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers again, and this time there will be a colored ball, but it's going to mean it's going to be a yes color. What color is that ball? Okay, perfect. In a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers again, and that color will be a representation of no. What color is the ball? Red. Great. So now speaking to the subconscious part of the mind that just shows those colors, if this was a way for me to want to work to make the changes necessary, would this be an appropriate way to communicate with you? Colors the ball. Okay, so we got to know, right? No, it's saying it won't communicate with me because blue was, if I remember correctly, was the no answer. Blue was yes. Okay, I thought blue was no. So, okay, perfect. So that's it then. And then what I would do is speaking to that part of the subconscious mind that just chose those colors, I will be speaking to you at a later time if necessary, right? And close that conversation off. And here's the deal. I usually write down what colors are chosen because that way I can remember. But if you notice, first I check, can she see a ball? I never see a ball. First time I did something, there's a ball there, right? For me, it doesn't work. For some people, yeah, there's a ball there. And it's not even necessarily a ball, but it is a representation of a ball, right? A fuzzy coloring or whatever it may be. Now I have to go back and validate though, right? So now, okay, the mind can do it. Now I want a yes and I want a no, right? Just like ideomotor, only I'm using colors now. That way, if I don't get ideomotor work, I've got a backup way to work, right? Because yes or no. Simple as that. So then this is where, and because we want to see it up here, I'm going to have you put your hands up like this because I do this online. Majority of my clients are online clients. And so as you can see, if you're like this, you can still see online, fingers are moving, right? You can see that fingers are moving. So is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to wiggle your fingers so you know what it feels like for you to wiggle them. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Nice ring. And now this is what it feels like if I move one. Yeah, different than if you're doing it. So now is what I'd like you to do is not intentionally, consciously move your fingers while I'm speaking to your subconscious mind. I'm going to be speaking to you, but through you. Okay. So no conscious responses. Is that something we can agree on?
Mhm.
Perfect. So now speaking to that subconscious part of yourself, I'd like any part that's listening to go ahead and choose any finger or thumb on either one of those hands and give me a nice, clear yes response. Phenomenal. And did everybody see that? And did you choose that finger?
But I've had a hypnotherapist use the finger method before, and I already have pre-programmed fingers for yes and no.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that's okay. Here's the deal. This is really great during this part because how would you feel if maybe the no finger was a different finger than what you thought it was? Because maybe a different part chooses. I'm not trying to change you. I'm just curious how you would, what would that do in a situation?
It would be interesting, but I've already built up such a connection to what I do that sometimes, like, when I'm making a decision, my finger will just spasm and I'll know instantly.
So that's perfect. Okay, so that's perfect. Speaking of that same part of the subconscious mind that just shows that yes finger, go ahead and give me a nice clear no finger now, please. Okay, perfect. So, and it's interesting. The reason I love this, and the reason I asked, so a lot of times, index fingers oftentimes yes, right? And that's an easy one. It gets interesting when the ring finger starts to move this way, not up and down, but sideways, right? Because the ring finger is not an easy finger to consciously move. So I'm always interested when the ring finger shows up, right? The other one, a lot of times on no, I get this. That's usually the biggest no finger. I mean, because subconsciously, does that not make absolute sense? I mean, are we not programmed up? Right. That means no. It certainly doesn't mean welcome. Right? So it's funny how that happens a lot. I will see it a lot. I kind of snicker to myself. And you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Put me off. So you can go ahead and put your hands down first. So now is what I would do. Those are our imagination games, right? Now I've got a bunch of information about how her subconscious mind likes to communicate. The most important thing is that if I couldn't get fingers moving, if I couldn't get some sort of representation of a ball, some way to work with them with that kind of ideomotor sense, this would not be an appropriate technique for them necessarily. Not today, anyway, because is what I would do is I would say, I'm definitely down for working with you because we got great movement, right? Because what's going to happen then if we were doing a consultation, I would say I would be willing to work with you because you've got great responses. Now your choice is when do you want to start, right? Because I set up all 3 sessions immediately, and this is the way that we train it. You're sitting there with them, you've got the responses. You can, if you want, move into a session. I don't generally do that because I've got other appointments usually coming right after that. But is what I'll do is I'll say you need to set up session 1, 2, and 3 all now. We don't do weekly stuff where you call up and we're going to come Tuesday and maybe I'll come up. No, you're going to pull your calendar out. You're going to set all 3 appointments up right now, right? And you're also going to pay for all 3 appointments right now because we don't do individual sessions. It's $900 flat fee, $750 if you're a senior or on Social Security or have money issues or you don't have it. If I qualify people for the lower pricing. And most smokers, let's be real. I shouldn't say that. I need to retract what I just said. Let's be real part. A majority of the smokers that I have worked with have not been high earning people. So I try to take that in consideration when I'm working with smokers in particular, right? It's just something I do. At any rate, so then I have them set all of that up, and now everything is done. Payments are done. They have secured their sessions with the payments, and they're ready to go, right? And it makes it super simple. And then when they come in the next week, we start session one. We don't go over all the other stuff. We literally start session one with, okay, I want to speak to that part that I was speaking with last week that is ready to make the changes that need to be made. Will that part go ahead and give you a nice yes finger? Get a yes finger. And then we go right down the list. Is this the part? Do you know why we're here today? Yes, great. Are you willing to work with me? Yes. Then I tell them exactly what it's on. Well, today, is what we're experiencing here is Barbara or whoever. Well, I'm sorry, what is your name again? Lydia. Lydia wants to have a better experience with motivation in the morning. She wants to be able to get out of bed feeling excited and ready for the day. Is that something that you're able and willing to help me with? Yes, perfect. Are you the member of the crew who's in charge of this? Yes, great. So what I'm going to do is in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3, snap my fingers, and that's going to be your moment to make the changes necessary, right? So 1, 2, 3, snap my fingers. Things start to go on. I say, give me a nice yes signal when all of those new connections and these new behaviors have been instilled. And I do my chatter, right? I'm like, just like a computer downloading a new operating system, overriding all of the old operating system for it never to be pulled up again, right? And once that's done, give me a yes. Sometimes, now I've done a demonstration before in front of a class of about 15 people, and it took 15 plus minutes for them to process. And everybody in the class was silent and staring at me. But she was processing. I could tell she was processing. She was sitting, and her eyes, doing this. And so I knew they all knew she was processing, but they're all like, is it ever going to come up where it was yes? Finally, her hand raised and it was yes, right? There are other times that it's like 1, 2, 3, and as soon as those changes have been made, give me a yes signal, and they're sitting there and I snap my fingers and it comes up. It's like, well, wait a minute, that's already that quick. Really? You're really telling me that it's going to be that way? And they're like, it'll come up, yes. I'm like, so you're telling me, and this is the conversation I have with that part. You're telling me that if I check with Lydia to make sure that that feeling is gone, that it's going to be gone. It's going to be a 0, I say, because it's what we do. And I kind of skip this part. Before we do the actual change work, we find out with them the what, the where, the weight. We all know what that is. The what, the where, the weight. Where is it? What is it? So if you're feeling that sensation that you're feeling, were you feeling it in your body? Right? What is the intensity of it? Does it have a color, a shape? One way to identify that thing, right? That it is that they're there to change, that feeling that you're here to change. Where do you feel that in your body? Right. And now when we can get a level on it, usually want a 7 or above in the intensity, like 0, I don't care if I ever change this at all. 10, oh my God, I need this changed now. Right. So we have a set point at the beginning, and then we're not done until that's a 0. I will say, Lydia, talking to the conscious part of you, I want you to check back in with that piece. Prepare yourself for that possible future event that would trigger this old behavior. Find out what it does, right? And most of the time, it's a 0. If it's a 0, they cannot find the feeling or the trigger. We've taken care of the issue, right? It's been resolved. Go out, live your life for a week. Come back. We're going to do our test, right? And like I say, if it's only a 7, I'll say, great, let's start where we were before. I pull that part up. Are you, the part that I was working with last time, are you the one who's in charge of being able to make this change? Yes or no? No, I can't. So I need to speak to another part. Can I speak to the part that is in charge of making that change then, please? And will that part go ahead and choose? And this is where it gets interesting, where it would be interesting working with someone who is qualified a yes and no finger, because there are times that I'm having multiple conversations because I've got multiple parts involved. And I'm like, I want that other part to choose another finger on that other hand for yes. Right? That way I know I'm not mixing these conversations up. Right? Doesn't happen often that we've got multiple parts involved. involved, but there are sometimes, supportive roles that other parts will play. Yeah. And I mean, that's where in the second session, it really becomes pertinent for us to understand what we're doing and how we're doing what we're doing. Because for example, I had a really powerful attorney come in to see me, and COVID had come along. And it was right at the start of it where everybody was just getting used to the whole Zoom thing and doing all that stuff online. I was still seeing clients in person at the Cabrini Medical Tower. And she comes in, she goes, I am at the top of my career. She was an older woman. She goes, I've been the best at what I've been forever. She goes, but now I'm on this thing, and I feel like I am fresh out of school. And it's because she didn't have all of the fancy, she didn't know how to work the Zoom stuff, the backgrounds, this. So she was hyper concerned about her performance, about the way everybody was looking at her self-confidence was going down. And so we worked with her. We made the changes we need to make. She came back in for her second session. I was all excited. She comes in and I'm like, all right, on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you? And I said, stop, she said. And I was like, well, I'm like, give me a number on that. She goes, 0. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thinking in my head, I'm like, well, that was a pretty darn good session we had. And I'm like, well, tell me about your week. Tell me about your experience. She goes, I've been so busy this week. They've loaded more stuff on me. All of these meetings that I've had, because I've had more meetings than usual. And it's been overwhelming. And, and she's going on and on and on. I'm like, did you compare yourself at all? I didn't have time for comparing in any of my meetings this week. I was like, back up a second, Jack. Isn't that what you wanted? Because that's all of her time in all the meetings was consumed with her comparing herself. So she wasn't paying attention, right? This is where educating clients is so important. She was so doing what all people do. She got what she wanted. Now she's focused on the next thing that ain't working, which is the overwhelming amount of work she had. Because I said, now, wait a minute, you didn't focus on any of the things that were going on the screen. No, I just didn't have time. I was getting all my notes. I was doing all that. And I'm like, that's what you wanted, isn't it? She goes, and she sat, and I mean, she literally shifted in her chair a couple times. She goes, oh my God, I'm a big old 10. And I was like, because I needed to point out to her that she had glossed over the fact that that stuff was no longer a problem. She had moved on to the next problem now, right? And that's where we as healers, particularly in this kind of a realm, need to educate our clients about the reticular activating system, right? Why it's important for us to recognize how we're doing these changes. Yeah, because she thought that she wasn't successful. And here she had gotten everything she wanted, right? And didn't even recognize it. It's important for us to be able to educate people and to have that ability to call people out when we need to call them out, right? That I believe is a really important part of my job. People have been to counselors. They don't call us first. They've been around the block for all the other things, right? They've had, you're going to be okay. I'm like, I don't do that. No, you know what? What you did, that wasn't very smart, was it? Right? And I'm going to support the fact that that wasn't a very smart freaking move. And look where it puts you. Right? Now, how can we do it differently? Right? Because we're all going to do that stuff. The important thing is, what do we do with it and how do we move forward with it? Right? And so, again, I am all about empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. I tell every one of my clients, anytime that you want to call me, if you're having a challenge with anything, you call me. It's going to cost, no, never going to cost you anything. What's it? I have just spent, with the majority of my clients, I've spent maybe about 2.5, 3 hours with them. What is going to be wrong if it 6 months down the road or 8 months down the road, they give me a call and they're struggling and I spent 20 minutes with them? Why would I charge for that? Why wouldn't I tell them when they come in and they start working with me, you're stuck now. It's like signing up for a newsletter you don't want. Because forever that they need something from me, I'm available. And they all know that. And they know that it's not going to cost them anything. I tell them, if you want we're going to change something really big, but if it's related to this and you're struggling, let me help you figure out where the struggle is. right? Because we've worked with this, we know it's resolvable. Let's figure out where the heck came from, right? That's how I relate to clients. That I think is, and we all do it a little bit differently, right? Um, I like them to know that I'm on their team. I'm a permanent member of their team to help them be as successful as they want to be, right? And that way they feel that they can always contact me. And they do. I've had calls with me and blah 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 happen, and I'm like, and I'll kind of walk them through it. It may take 10 to 15 minutes of a phone conversation. So I missed 15 minutes of general hospital. My God, right? Not a big deal. So that is basically, so you guys got to see like the consultation and basically the first session, right, of what we do. Excuse me. And it's a beautiful program. It really is because people, like I say, I have had in the past, I had one negative review back in January, I think, smoker. Um, and she was in the review, she was really nice. Oh my God, Anthony's the nicest guy, blah, 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 blah. And it just didn't work for me, she said. And because it was public comment, I didn't respond the way I would if it had been an email sent to me, because the responsibility lay fully on her with the whole situation of why it wasn't working. She wouldn't do any, yeah, she was just a challenge. Nice lady, but a challenge. So we run into those people sometimes where she didn't want to change. She wanted someone to change her. And I missed it, right? She was a great responder. So I'm like, great, let's do it. And not recognizing fully that she wasn't ready. That was on me. But the responsibility also lays in the fact you got to quit to quit. So at any rate, blah, 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 blah. Any questions about any of the things that I did from you, or any questions for Lydia about the experience? Absolutely. Absolutely. She asked if it works with chronic pain, and it absolutely does. It works with, and so one of the things we do in class, because this is a 4-day class that I teach over several weekends. We do 2 days, and then we go the week and we do another 2 days. And the way that we work, interestingly, because of the way we work with it, we're dealing with specifically like we're going to build up the pain, right? In our situation, where the weight. I want you to think of a situation where you're going to be in that painful, pain is constant, right? Well, and so there's going to be times when the chronic pain triggers, though, right? And so because what I want to do, I want them to build that intensity up as much as possible. I want them to identify where it is in the body, right? That WWW. And then this is the beautiful thing about it. So we've created all this intensity in the body. And now is what I'm doing is I'm saying, I want to talk to the part of the subconscious, the part of the unconscious, the part of the human body that is creating that discomfort. The discomfort that is being felt, that is now a 10 out of 9, that so-and-so is feeling. I want to speak to the part of the body that is creating that. Please give me a yes signal. Bam. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You may have to do negotiations, right? Obviously, I would get a bunch of information, find out what was original trauma, all that kind of stuff, get some background information about the pain. And that way I would have ammunition, so to speak, to provide to the part that is running the pain, right? The redundant pain alarm, that redundant alarm bell, to talk to that part to find out what its purpose is. Because chronic pain, as a somatic body worker, chronic pain holds no message. In the way that we do things with massage therapy and orthobionic, chronic pain doesn't hold a real message. It's there, it's chronic because it's totally shooting, but it's not a true message. It's a misunderstood message. It's a message that is no longer that the pain is there, but the pain is there, right? That's the way we talk about it when we do. I get up to a whole other subject with that thing. But with chronic pain, with fibromyalgia, those are all symptoms, things that can be controlled with the mind. That's why control works, because we're working directly with the part that is creating the pain response. And we're saying, will you do something different? Right? And we're going to give it opportunities, right? We want to empower that part. Listen, because it is what I do when when I'm having a conversation with that part, I'm empowering it as well by making the statement of, look at how much power and control you have over so-and-so's life, how much involvement you have. Let's take that involvement and turn it into something amazing. How would you feel about the possibility of becoming the uh, health coach for the whole crew? Would you be awesome? Would you be interested in that kind of an upgrade? Yes. We'll sometimes get. I'll give options, right? How would you like to take over the part of being the one who's in control of all the good things? Wouldn't that be an amazing job? Yes. Well, then do that. And once that's done, let me know, right? And then they go out and they experience and they live again, right? So this is really, we use the things we don't use this for. Well, and I don't believe in working with a lot of body dysmorphic things anyway, because it's outside of my particular, I believe it's outside of my scope of practice. So body dysmorphia, I don't work with. Almost anything else I will work with. Schizophrenia, I will not work with schizophrenia. Um, those sorts of things. But for the most part, if it's something that I believe can be easily changed, doesn't matter to me if it's believe it, but if it's safe, if it's within my scope, then yeah, we can pretty much do it. Is when I'm on Zoom. That's the only time I use that, is when I'm on Zoom. And it's because a lot of times, like, I've got a camera that'll show my hands on the desk, but a lot of people don't have that ability, and that they've got to move things around and this and that. Well, so here's the thing. If they're doing that, right, they're having to support. This is just the easiest way for us that they can do that, and they're not having to support an elbow. They're not having to do this, right? Because and I know what the swan is.
Yeah.
But yeah. So is what I would have them do then is maybe have them I've had people put pillows, right? Put a pillow up there. However best works for them. Whatever works best for them is what I'm gonna go with. Yeah, because it's, as long as I can see something moving. I mean, I'll tell people they'll come in, and they'll have a tan shirt on with the tan bra or whatever, and I'm like, okay, we need to go put some color on, because I need to see fingers, right? And I want to be able to clearly identify, because there's some movements that are so small, all you can see is this bone up here just kind of moving, right? And that's how small the movement is. You got some people that their finger will just be, and you've got to push it down, right? It's very, very, it's different with everybody. But the one thing that has remained true throughout my time of using this process is that more there has I've had less challenges and more success more quickly. Right. And that's what's important to me. It's not my success. The clients have found that they're very successful. And again, no one is putting them out. No one is saying you're getting sleepy to them. They are conscious, aware the whole time. Well, I'll tell you what, when people's fingers start moving and they're not in trance, because most of the time we use IMRs, we're in trance, right? Even Ray Hunter, when he teaches that work, it's in trance, yeah? And so when they're sitting there and they are fully conscious, they believe they are fully conscious, and all that starts, they're like, well, how the hell did that happen? That is a huge benefit for you, because they're like, oh my God, I got a part of myself. And then they start having these conversations, right? And I tell them, you need to support the change. It's as if you had a kid and you said, at the end of the week, if you do this new behavior, you're going to get to go to the fair, or you're going to get to do whatever. And then the end of the week comes and you haven't supported or recognized that change throughout the week, and then you don't give the kid the goodie at the end, what's the kid going to do? Kid's going to go back to the old behavior because at least I was being recognized, right? So as soon I tell them, whenever you're in a situation and you feel that new behavior or whatever, thank you, thank you, right? People are like, oh, I've got to talk to myself. I'm like, now, this is another thing that's really interesting to me. People have no problem talking to themselves if it's degrading, if it's nasty, right? But the moment I say, support yourself, build that part up, thank it for the changes that it's making, right? Pat on the back, recognize it. They're like, well, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, again, oh, wait, we talk to ourselves all the time. How about doing it nicely, right? So again, to me, it really is about empowerment. I want to empower, empower, empower. Because third session, the one thing, by the way, why I always tell them the third session is one that a lot of people don't come back to just because they don't need it. But I tell them they're going to miss out on a really big piece. Because of what we do in the third session, as well as just making sure everything is still good, is I teach them how to apply this to themselves, right? There's no reason why this system cannot be applied to oneself. We do it all the time, right? And so I tell them, if you want to learn how to do this, so you can do this with any of the other changes you want to make in your life, just let me know. And they're usually like, oh, no, I'll just come back. I'm like, yes, cha-ching. Because it is easier to have it facilitated, right? It is. I mean, we can all do self-massage. This is nicer to go get a massage, right? I mean, I can rub my own feet. I'm pretty good at that, but I certainly like it better to have someone else do it. Yeah, it's the same with everything, right? Um, yeah, and it's nice because when the clients, I can't stand that term, my clients, they're not my clients, they're people who I'm honored enough to be able to work with. Um, when they leave, they will oftentimes be like, I know I didn't do anything, but I feel spacey, kind of loopy. I'm like, yeah, that means it worked. I have not. But I'll tell you this is a really great thing about this system as well in general. We support our practitioners. And by that, I mean every month we hold 3 practitioner forums you can choose from. And we have up to sometimes 60 people on a forum. We like them when they're a little bit smaller. A good one is about 20 people. And for that first hour is what either Tim or I will do is we'll talk about a specific subject, right? Something an issue that we deal with a lot. And then we open it up for the next hour. And we have practitioners. Deborah Mulvaney was one of our first practitioners. She works with the NHS in women's issues. We have a doctor who works for the NHS. Most of our practitioners are UK. I'm the US representative, and it just hasn't hit here very well, with why I'm doing this special today about this super discounted price. But we've got several doctors, we've got counselors in the UK, all of them work with the NHS. And it's interesting because you as a practitioner will be able to go, does anybody work with dementia? What has been your cases? And then you've got all of these other resources that are available there for you in the moment to help you. And we all talk to each other. We've got a private Facebook group. It is the most supportive group of people that I've ever worked with. I go over to the UK every year now for what we call the Control Colloquium. It's our own little conference sort of thing. And it's amazing, do you all know who Howard Cooper is by chance? He's another gentleman in the round, who he is. He's been to our conference before to help kind of talk about some things, but it's a very supportive group, right? We are all about how can we help you succeed, because that's what we want for our clients, right? That's why we don't charge a lot for our training to begin with, because we want to get this system out there, right? I believe in it wholeheartedly. I love it, and I wish more people would use it. Yeah, this is what I call the gold standard of parts therapy.
Just let you know for this fall, or October 4th, 5th, 11th, and 12th. That's what I have in the newsletter. So And Anthony is offering a 50% discount, not only to the NGHWA members who have paid, but everyone on that mailing list.
Yes.
So that's just amazing. So please contact Anthony. His contact information will be not only in the newsletter, but in the video that I'll put on YouTube. I also want to mention one benefit of being a member is you get to be on our website. So as I was thinking about my benefits, I remember that. Did you have one more comment?
Yeah, I want to say that the other reason that I've really lowered this, so I'm an approved education provider for the NCVTMB, which is the National Certification Board of Therapeutic and Massage Body Workers, and I create a lot of continuing education classes, and that's another reason why I've lowered this, because I want to make it more accessible. And we have all been taught in this industry from all the conferences, the red velvet thing, if it's more expensive, they will come. I'm not believing that anymore. And I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm more interested in really creating powerful, really good practitioners that care about their clients and the success of their clients. The other stuff will come when it's supposed to, I've decided.
Very, very good. Thank you so much for joining us for NGHWA chapter meeting. Thank you, Anthony. We love you so much.